Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As many of you know, or perhaps you have already seen, the interview that Tucker Carlson had with the best diplomat in the world, Mr. Sergey Lavrov. Many commentators will be addressing that interview, and I decided to bring to you my personal takeaway from that interview, and also a little bit from my commentary, if that's okay with you. I hope it is. Not just to say that this level of class and diplomacy and maintaining the level of stoicism and keeping your emotions at check, and as I said, being a diplomat, so knowing exactly what to say at the right moment, not to reveal too much, not to offend people who could be mentioned in this interview, is truly remarkable. And we don't see this in the world, hardly at all. As if this is something from a different era that no longer exists. But Sergey Lavrov, as you know, has served as the foreign minister of Russia since 2004. So this gentleman has been doing this job for 20 years now. And he is the longest serving Russian foreign minister since Andrei Gromyko, who was serving during the Soviet Union. And I just want to say that the comments under that interview are fantastic. Most, of course, majority of those comments. What you can see is that relationship between American people and Russian people, the regular citizens that do not want any conflict, any tension, any war, and they have this platform to express from one to another what the real people from those two countries, and not just from the US and Russia, of course, but in this context, as the interview was hosted by Tucker Carlson, who is an American citizen, with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergey Lavrov, we have those two sides, and those people are exchanging, those citizens are exchanging their willingness to express that they want to live in peace and they don't want any conflict. It's truly beautiful and remarkable, and we have to be grateful to be still able to have those kind of platforms and to express it. And I know my platform is really small in comparison, but still there are people who are expressing this, especially when I was in Russia. So let me bring you my takeaways from that interview. It was almost an hour and a half long. And I will start with the comment, one comment, very quick, short, and to the point, that I read under that interview that Tucker had with Sergey Lavrov. Someone said, "Tucker is doing Blinken's job for him. Shows how weak our leaders are." Isn't it a great comment? So, in the very beginning of this interview, Sergey Lavrov said something like this in regards to the potential nuclear conflict. He said, "We don't see any reason why Russia and the United States cannot cooperate for the sake of the universe." This was just in the very beginning of this interview, about 0 minute 43 seconds at that point, as I written this down. This shows you the level of understanding what is really at stake here, right? I think this is much bigger than many people really understand as far as the galaxy and the universe. And let me read you what I have written down from this interview that I take away the most. Mr. Lavrov says, "We would be ready to use any means not to allow them," this means the West, "to succeed in what they call strategic defeat of Russia. They fight for keeping the hegemony over the world on any country, any region, any continent. We fight for our legitimate security interests." They say, for example, 1991 borders. Lindsey Graham, who visited some time ago Zelensky for another talk, he bluntly, in his presence and presence of Zelensky, I think said that Ukraine is very rich with rare earth metals and we cannot leave this richness to the Russians. We must take it. They fight for the regime which is ready to sell or to give the West all the natural and human resources. We fight for the people who have been living on these lands, whose ancestors were actually developing those lands, building cities, building factories for centuries and centuries. We care about people, not about natural resources, which somebody in the United States would like to keep, and to have Ukrainians just as servants sitting on those natural resources. So the message which we wanted to sell by testing in real action this hypersonic system, he means the Oreshnik missile, is that we will be ready to do anything to defend our legitimate interest. We hate to even think about war with the United States, which will take nuclear character. Our military doctrine says that the most important thing is to avoid a nuclear war. And it was us, by the way, who initiated in January 2022 the message, the joint statement by the leaders of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, saying that we will do anything to avoid confrontation between us, acknowledging and respecting each other's security interests and concerns. This was our initiative, and the security interests of Russia were totally ignored. They rejected it about this at the same time when they rejected the proposal to conclude a treaty on security guarantees for Russia, for Ukraine, in the context of coexistence and in the context of when Ukraine would not be ever member of NATO or any other military bloc. This security interest of Russia were presented to the West, NATO, and to the United States in December 2021. We have discussed them several times, including during my meeting with Tony Blinken in Geneva in January 2022, and this was rejected. So we would certainly like to avoid any misunderstanding, and since the people, some people in Washington and some people in London and Brussels seem to be not very capable to understand, read this, stupid, but he's not gonna say it. Since some people in the Washington and some people in London and Brussels seem to be not very capable to understand, we will send additional messages if they don't draw necessary conclusions. So here, a few of my comments. First and foremost, the natural resources. Don't we all know how much resources Russia already has? So any reasoning here that they are doing this because of grabbing the land is absolutely ridiculous, right? And people still buy this crap. They buy this narrative. They have so many resources. They have how many time zones? I always get confused. 12? Resources all over the place. No, they actually want resources from Ukraine. Isn't it something almost hilarious? And then calling people not capable to understand, meaning completely ignorant, stupid, imbeciles, they will continue to send additional messages for them to understand. He was asked about the back channels of any dialogue between US and Russia. And he said that there were some talks which were very much of the same nature that the public has received. But there was a very good question, and I like how Mr. Lavrov has responded to it. When Tucker asked him, have you spoken to any Biden officials since the moment when he talked to Blinken, I think it was in Rome, about 2 years ago, and I will get to that. Sergey Lavrov said, "I don't want to ruin their career," meaning that there were some people from the Biden administration that he was in contact with, that perhaps for the public they present one side, and then to the other side, to Russia, they play a different game, so bipolar or sick or mentally not well. I don't want to ruin their career, isn't it something, huh? This is how you are a diplomat. Because he could say the names. Why not? He could just say it. Let me see what I have here. Yes, this is a question about sanctions, which was a fantastic answer, and I want to read you this. Tucker asked if one of the conditions to come to the agreement, to those negotiations, would be dropping sanctions on Russia, right? And this is what Mr. Lavrov answered. I would say probably many people in Russia would like to make it a condition, but the more we live under sanctions, the more we understand that it is better to rely on yourself and to develop mechanisms, to develop platforms for cooperation with normal countries who are not unfriendly to you and don't mix economic interests and policies, and especially politics. And we have learned a lot after the sanctions started. Sanctions started under Obama, they continued in a very big way under first term of Trump, and these sanctions under the Biden administration are absolutely unprecedented. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. They will never kill us, so they are making us stronger. I will use this for the title of this video because it's a fantastic statement. They will never kill us, so they are making us stronger. And what I want to say here is this. You know, I have a little bit different approach from a little bit more spiritual standpoint here. This really reminds me the relationship between empath and narcissist, okay? And you know who is who. So there comes a point when empath stops being that extreme empath and just becomes self-loving, realistic being. And then the narcissist realizes that the game is over because they like to play those games to suck the energy, right? Suck the energy. And so the empath comes to understanding that there are other options in the world, other people that are not narcissistic, that they can actually have a healthy relationship with, that will nourish them and they will exchange the energy, not drain the energy. And this is how I see this, which is such a psychological picture that I have in my mind. Isn't it interesting? And then in response to this, Tucker asked Mr. Lavrov that this is driving Russia east, this approach, right? Which Sergey Lavrov perfectly stated. And then Tucker asked if there is any way that Russia and the West can be closer, right? Like they used to. And I mean, they never really fully were. There was a game. But Lavrov said that President Putin, made a very clear statement in the last Valdai meeting this year. He said this: we will never be back at the situation of 2022. And Lavrov elaborated on this, and he said, this is when, in Lavrov's opinion, Putin realized that all attempts to be on equal terms with the West have failed. Very interesting interview, guys. I really recommend you to watch. And the last point here. I have about Trump. Well, there was more about Blinken, but you can watch it because if you haven't, you have to watch it. About Trump. What does he think about Trump? He says, I met him several times, and he described this was during the meeting between Trump and Putin. And I think he's a very strong person who wants results, who doesn't like procrastination on anything. He's very friendly in discussions, but this doesn't mean he is pro-Russian. The amount of sanctions we received under the Trump administration was very big. and we respect any choice which is made by the people when they vote. We respect the choice of American people, and we are open, as Putin said, we are open to contacts with and have been open all along with the current administration, and we hope that when Donald Trump is inaugurated, he will understand it. So that interview, I want to express something here that I don't think I ever told you. I look at people now for quite some time. You know, I am very like energy focused person, so it's almost like I listen to what they say, but I combine this with how they feel. So what is the energy? And very often I not only feel the energy, but there is also the vibration, frequency of the truth or lie in the voice of the person, because sound is very important. There is something about Sergei Lavrov's voice that calms me down. And I'm not saying like I'm nervous or anything, but it's something very, very stable, very, it's not aggravating, and it's very, very good frequency from his voice, okay? And I wanted to express it because I know many of you will understand what I'm talking about. Sound is very important because they also manipulate humanity. They disturb our frequency by the vibration, by the sound. So that's why you have this music, subliminal tones and sounds that affects our body, you know, our brain and many things. And Sergei Lavrov's voice, this is maybe strange commentary, but this is my channel, so Sergei Lavrov's voice is very, very good vibes for me, okay? That's what I want to say. That's all for today, everyone. I would like to know what you think about this interview. If you've seen it, what are your thoughts? And I think it's great that there was someone like Tucker Carlson who went to Moscow again and had a chance and an absolutely privilege to interview someone that remarkable as Mr. Lavrov is. And with this being said, I want to repeat again, I don't think we will go nuclear, but this just shows you how disconnected and weak those so-called leaders are from the people who are whom they apparently run, which they cannot run really, because it's us who is the majority, not them. Let's just remember this. And we don't have to obey to this at all. I'm rambling now, so time to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. If this context here, this content brings you any value, make sure to hit this like, subscribe and share. The link to the interview you find down below this video, or you can just go to Tucker Carlson official website or his YouTube channel and watch it there. Also, Russia's News has posted a full interview on their YouTube channel, so I will attach those two. Thank you so much for all your support, joining me on Locals, PayPal, donating on Patreon, and that's it. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Bye everyone.